But today I wanted to basically talk a little bit about the Palisade hop and also about cryo hops in general. I guess most of you will be pretty familiar with cryo hops already, but I just have a few slides here to make sure that everyone is up to speed. So cryo, we have some great graphics, of course, here, some lovely magnified look at a cryo pellet, and you can see it's just packed full of flavor. It's almost a bit yellow because it's full of the lupulin of the oil, and you can see as well it's a very soft pellet. So not only is it super concentrated, but also it will break up very easily in the brewing process, especially if you use it in dry hopping. You basically, it all breaks up easily. You don't have the pellet sinking to the bottom of the tank, and you can release all that aroma and flavor. It's we make this in a patented pelleting technology, so super cold and all in a nitrogen atmosphere. So this really will give you the freshest experience of hops in the market, basically in pellet form. The closest you can get to actually raw hops as if you were picking them fresh from the field. With the concentration of the lupulin, it means we have less of the green vegetal plant material. So the flavor attributes that you get from a cryo hop compared to a Type 90 pellet is usually more fruity, more floral, citrusy, and less of the herbal, grassy, hay-like characteristics that you get from the plant material itself. With the concentration, you dose less, meaning that you have also you reduce your beer losses or wort losses. And across the world, basically, we get data from breweries, and most people see about a 3 to 5% yield increase, meaning you effectively have 3 to 5% more beer to sell from every batch that you brew. Just a quick slide here. Of course, with the concentration factor, you also need to ship less volume. And here a little insight, perhaps. I'm sure some of you have also heard already or followed us on Instagram or social media, the Dyna Boost. This is not part of today's presentation, but that is the flowable whirlpool extract that we recently launched. And this can replace 1 to 10 amounts the weight of product in brewing. Super potent and even better for loss reduction. But we can talk about this another time. Another technical aspect to keep in mind when you use cryo hops compared to Type 90 is that with the cryo hops, you will have less hop creep. The hop creep is the fermentation or re-fermentation that can happen when dosing hops on the cold side. The enzymes in the hop material can break down more of the non-fermentable sugars into fermentable sugars. So if in dry hopping you dose the Type 90 pellets, you can increase basically the amount of fermentable sugars after actually your fermentation is already finished, if you go into late dry hopping. But with cryo hops, because there's less plant material, there's also less enzyme, so you will have a reduced hop creep. So keep that in mind if you're switching from a Type 90 recipe to cryo, that additional re-fermentation that you might see from a Type 90 edition, you will not see with a cryo hop, or much reduced. On the right, the bottom right, you see a there's some data there on maltose uptake or maltose fermentation. You see the raw hops on the left have a significant maltose reduction capacity, up to 500 ppm. The bract pellet, which is the red bar, is even higher because this is basically concentrated plant or concentrated leaf material, has the highest enzyme content. And in comparison, in the middle, the cryo hops is really just a small amount of residual sugar that basically this can induce fermentation of. So really, as I said, the hop creep is greatly reduced through using cryo hops. So keep that in mind. Some words now on the hop variety or the cultivar that you will be using for the Brew King competition. The Palisade, it's a hop developed by Yakima Chief Ranches, which is basically the breeding program of Yakima Chief. So we created this variety, and it's pretty versatile, pretty, you could say dual purpose or just versatile variety. You can use it in different ways, right? It has moderate alpha level, between 7 and 10% roughly, but it has interesting oil characteristics as well, with some of the noble characteristics that you would expect from traditional lager varieties. But it also has some dried fruit and some stone fruit and some floral notes. Here on the slide, we put apricot as well as a kind of an interesting characteristic. It really depends on how this variety is used. So, and we saw as well what Mia showed us, the different times of addition with the with yeast in general, but also specifically the SAF lager, the S189. Different times of addition of the hops will give you different characteristics, right? So in the early dry hop, we saw, or Mia showed that it's a more fruity characteristic. So you're more likely to get, in this case with the Palisade, more of the floral notes and maybe some of the apricot. In a late dry hop, it seemed to be more generically hoppy, which I believe comes from the fact that there's less of the higher volatile compounds changed or kind of evaporated coming out of the brew, driven out by the fermentation. So more of the kind of green grassy notes dominate, in contrast to an earlier dry hop when maybe you get more of the dried fruit in this case with the Palisade and the apricot notes. So that'll be really interesting to see how you're using this. I'm assuming that despite it's a lager competition, that you will probably still use some dry hopping. And it's going to be really interesting to hear back the tasting notes, like what characteristics you get out of this, depending on dose rates and points of addition as well. So definitely something to be creative with. And yeah, I hope that not everyone in this competition brews according to the same recipe. That's here's another quick look at the aroma profile of Palisade, and you can see it is dominated by citrus and stone fruit. So that'll be that apricot note, but also kind of some other characteristics, right? We got some floral here, a little bit of tropical, and also some grassy notes. And this spider diagram would be an example, basically, of how we display data on all our hop varieties and all hop products. If you use the lot lookup tool on our website with the lot number, the batch number on any box that you receive, any package of hops that we send you, there's a lot number, and you can use that on the website to get exactly this information. So the data of sensory profile of that specific lot. Yeah, and the data that we show there, we generate ourselves. We have a team of trained panelists, and they evaluate literally every batch of hops. So from the raw hops that come in from the farms, they will do sensory analysis and analytical as well. All that data is available on the lot lookup tool. And then also when we pelletize those hops, but the data from those batches then as well is all captured, including the HSI data, which kind of gives you an indication of the freshness of the hops. So that can be a pretty useful tool and give you some confidence as well, especially when it comes to using older crop years, which is probably going to be something that's going to happen more and more in the next few years, as there are some stocks available of older crop years. But we've really shown that if the hops are stored well, they can hold up pretty good. And Palisade is a fairly stable variety as well. So we really, yeah, recommend not to worry too much about the crop year. As long as the hops have been stored correctly, there's really nothing that can go wrong. And yeah, it's there's some examples as well, commercial examples of really good beers. Basically, we have this great great beer here. Subcause from Varietal Beer Company out of the US. They you can see here in 2021 they won a Great American Festival run-up medal with hops that were literally 4 years old at the time. And yeah, this was Palisade basically in this beer with them, which was stored well and just still made a great beer. So don't worry too much about crop years. But yeah, be creative with the Palisade, and I think I'll end the presentation now and just open up, and maybe we can have some discussions about how to use and things you can expect from getting out of this variety.